Beats House and Bushy for those of us who love the grand old game and the bunting. Major League Baseball all weekend, door to door, plus the Terps out at the Horseshoe in Columbus as a double-digit dog to the Ohio State Buckeyes, the number 10 ranked Buckeyes. We'll see how that goes at 4 o'clock. And then, of course, on Sunday, the Ravens are in the Bay Area, back out in the Black Hole, taking on a different version of the Oakland/Las Vegas Raiders than we thought without Derek Carr. This guy covers all things in the Bay Area for The Athletic, San Francisco, and The Athletic SF out on Twitter. He is Jimmy Durkin and Jimmy_Durkin. That's Durkin out on Twitter. We welcome him back for another dance. First off, congrats on the gig there. Tell everybody about The Athletic, because I'm excited about that as a journalism guy myself.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool deal. I mean, we're a subscription-based site, so we basically ask people to give us a small little fee per month, and what they get from us is a website that doesn't have ads. You're not clicking on our stories and being greeted by pop-up videos and having ads that you're having to click all off of just to be able to get to your story. And we kind of try to take a little more time with what we write. Give you analysis, give you stuff that you maybe aren't getting on from everybody else, and in the clean environment. We've got a really good app that's where most of the people read all of our work, and so it's going pretty well. We're keep expanding into different cities, and hopefully we'll keep going with it.
Hey, man, this Raiders team, and I know baseball season was very good out there, so, all the hopes around the whole area, not just on the basketball side with the Warriors, and I know the Sharks have been decent too, but, the fall was really held by the Raiders, right? Like, they might have been the best team in all of football. They might be a Super Bowl team, but at the bounce back of a quarterback after an injury like last year and now what he's going through here this week, and for the organization to be stumbling, to have lost to Denver, to have their kicker not be right, to have their defense still not be right, Amari Cooper not right, the running game not right, now you lose the quarterback. These are two very, very sort of wavering boats meeting at 4 o'clock East Coast time on Sunday out there at the Black Hole.
Yeah, I mean, the Raiders, it was really kind of a weird situation because there was so much hype going into this year. This is finally a season their fans can talk about Super Bowl as a realistic goal, and then they come out in the opener and they beat Tennessee on the road, and they destroy the Jets like you expect them to do in week 2, and basically all that hype was warranted. Here we go, this team is going to be a contender, and then it all kind of fell flat on a weird Sunday night in Washington, and then, this past weekend in Denver, even before Derek Carr got hurt, you're watching this offense and you're saying, what's going on? And I mean, the same fans that were worried about Todd Downey getting a head coaching job in the offseason are now saying, fire him, get rid of him. They should have never gotten rid of Bill Musgrave, who was their coordinator the last couple of years. So the offense is really kind of stuck in a rut. I mean, that's the biggest takeaway to me is that, the reason they've lost these last 2 games isn't because of the defense, and that's what everybody expected to be the weakness of this team. And not like the defense has been great. They've been okay, but you hold the Broncos at home to 16 points, you expect you're going to be in position to win that game, and they're just not right now. They're not clicking. Marshawn Lynch looked great in the opener and really hasn't done much since. I think since we all saw him truck Jarrell Casey in that final drive in the opener, he's averaging about 2 yards per carry since that play. So they got a lot of issues right now that they're going to have to get sorted out, and they're going to have to try to sort it out without Derek Carr.
Well, running the ball would help them, right? And certainly for the Ravens the last couple of weeks. And, I've joked with all of you West Coast types that you weren't even into a Bloody Mary at 7:30 in the morning a week and a half ago when it was 44-0, right? I mean, that was early in the morning here. Out there it was 3 hours even earlier. Look, it's been a mess. Your story is the same story, right? Like, the Ravens were 2-0. The offense was chugging along and, not making mistakes. The defense was doing 5 takeaways a week against Cincinnati and Cleveland. We thought maybe Cincinnati might have been good. We'll still see. The jury's out on that on the quarter poll as well. But the Ravens have done nothing right over the last 2 hours of football, including getting waxed at home by their division rival in a game that wasn't very close, in a game that they didn't look very competitive for much of the afternoon. And they're missing a $10 million guard, and they're missing a $12 million tackle that, we'll see on Brandon Williams as far as how it goes this week. But you start taking the good players away, you start eliminating Derek Carr for E.J. Manuel, and, this thing goes 6-10 pretty quick, man.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and now you start wondering, where would they even been if they hadn't signed E.J. Manuel, who respectably, he looked okay, when he had to come in against the Broncos, because, we saw how bad they were with Connor Cook in the playoff game last year. But he's dealing with not having Michael Crabtree, who didn't play on, against the Broncos, and we'll see if he's able to play against the Ravens. And you really can say that he had to play without Amari Cooper, because this guy is just completely disappeared. He's had 3 catches for, I think, 15 yards over the last 2 weeks. He's leading the league in drops, and basically you're taking away that as a huge weapon. Marshawn Lynch has not been effective. I think they're gonna have to reconsider what they do with that offense, with that running game, if he can't get going pretty soon, because they're going to have to start looking to Jalen Richard, DeAndre Washington, their younger guys, see if those guys have fresher legs, because if the passing game, and you don't know. I mean, E.J. Manuel looked okay, like I said, but how is he going to look when when he gets a whole week of practice, and when, the Ravens are able to prepare for him? And because we all know he's limited as a quarterback. He's got some talent. He can, he has a little experience, but he's not a great quarterback. He's limited. That's the reason, Buffalo moved on from him. So they're going to have to start running the ball, and they need their offensive line to play up to its capability. I mean, Dave Jackson got the big extension in the offseason. He has not had the kind of year he had the last couple of years. Kelechi Osemele, who obviously you guys know in Baltimore, he's still been pretty good, but maybe not quite up to the level of play last year when he was a first-team All-Pro. So those guys, the pressure's on them. I mean, that's where they've put so much investment, is on that offensive line. Those guys need to start opening up some more holes, in the running game needs to get going to take some pressure off Manuel.
Well, obviously, Amari Cooper and E.J. Manuel had a chance to maybe miraculously pull that game out on Sunday in the waning moments there. But Amari Cooper, much is expected, right? And I think the same story, I saw Darius Hayward-Bay running around the other day for the Steelers, and I thought, by the way, we got the same situation with Perryman here, where they can't get the kind of production that is warranted from that sort of a pick. And it wasn't going well with Carr there, right? Now, you wonder what it would be like with Manuel, what kind of a game plan, because it feels to me like they are two different kinds of quarterbacks. This offense will change a little bit this week, right?
Yeah, not too much. I think they feel like, they're not the same quarterback, but they basically have been running the same offense, and so that's what they'll look to do. With Cooper, I think it seems to be in his head. He had an issue with dropping the ball a lot as a rookie, even though he was still very productive. And he really kind of erased that issue last year. He only had like 4 drops, I think. And, historically, he had one of the best starts to his career of a wide receiver with 2, 1,000-yard seasons. And he came in physically stronger. Everyone was really, predicted him to have a breakthrough year. This is the year he could prove to be a top 5 receiver in the league. And it seems like it's just mental with him right now. He has a couple of drops in the opener, and then it just keeps snowballing. And then as for how he'll be out there with E.J. Manuel, well, they haven't they haven't worked a ton with each other, just because obviously Manuel spent more time during camp working with the second stringers. We saw a lot. He built a really nice rapport with Cordero Patterson during camp, during preseason, during all that. They were connecting on a bunch of deep balls, really throughout the offseason program. So he kind of has a good rapport, with those guys. We'll see if he can build one this week with Amari Cooper. And if he can't, we'll see if maybe Cordero Patterson ends up being kind of an X factor for the Raiders.
He is Jimmy Durkin. You can follow him out on Twitter at Jimmy_Durkin. That's Durkin. He's a senior editor for The Athletic out in the Bay Area and The Athletic SF. You can follow him out on Twitter as well as at The Athletic, getting ready for this Raiders game. And, I guess beyond all of this is the best player on the field will be Khalil Mack, right? I think on both squads, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, he's off to a really good start. He's been a guy that, in the first few years of his career, traditionally does not start strong. It takes him a month or two to really kind of build up, to start fighting off those double teams and triple teams and getting to the quarterback. Well, he had 2 sacks against Denver on Sunday. He's got 4 sacks through 4 games. That's by far the best pace he's ever gotten off to, in his young career. And he's the leader of that defense. He's a guy that just, is incredibly strong, incredibly quick. The reigning defensive player of the year, and And I think right now, I mean, he's probably playing as good a football as he has throughout his career. He's disruptive in the run game. He's disruptive in the pass game. And, he almost forced a turnover last week, but they called Trevor Siemian down by contact and took away the strip on this sack. But man, he's a lot of fun to watch, and he just keeps getting better really every time you watch him.
Yeah, very worrisome for our offensive line and how they performed against Jacksonville and even against the Steelers at home here over the weekend. I guess the other part of this is the secondary hasn't been very good. The defense in totality hasn't been nearly as good as Mack and company. We're still trying to figure out who the rest of the company is there, right? I mean, this was a major offseason program for Jack to say, well, we're good enough to win 11, 12, 13 games, but we're not going to win a Super Bowl with this defense right now. They tried to augment that and make it better. The jury really is out on this, right? Especially on the backside, that this is a week where veteran guys like the Wallaces and the Macklins and the Flaccos, that if the rush isn't there, this is troublesome. That is their Achilles heel, right?
Well, definitely, because everything that they tried to do to the expectations of improvement in the secondary were based on hoping that Sean Smith and David Amerson would have bounce-back years at corner. Well, Amerson just suffered his third concussion in less than a year, and I can't imagine that he's able to play on Sunday just because it's becoming a repeat issue with him. I mean, Sean Smith has, fallen off the face of the earth. He can't run with anybody anymore. He really can't do a whole lot out there. And I mean, he's probably going to have to start, but he's not improving the way they hoped. Their first round pick, Garyon Conley, has dealt with this shin injury that has kept him out of a couple of games already. And we'll see. He's going to probably be limited at practice this week, and they'll see if they can get him up and get him ready, for Sunday. And then their second round pick was a safety, Obi Melifonwu, that they really liked him as a guy they thought they could match up with opposing tight ends, put him in the slot against some of those bigger receivers and tight ends and make a difference. Well, he's on IR and is going to miss the first half of the season. So everything that they banked on in terms of making their secondary better has not worked out. So there's a lot of question marks. They've played okay at times, some of the guys back there. I think Carl Joseph in his second year is looking like a guy who is a pretty good player and should be a mainstay for them. But otherwise, it's still filled with question marks.
Well, it's always question mark when you don't have your quarterback, right? And they don't have their kicker either. It came to my attention Sebastian Janikowski's out too. So, we're over here playing without all sorts of parts and going in. But a game that felt like it was going to be the least likely to win this side of Green Bay this year on the road was going out to Oakland 2 weeks after London and winning. Now it feels somehow weirdly within grasp to some degree, even though I can't recommend anything about the way the Ravens are playing football right now, literally.
Yeah, I mean, the Raiders look at this certainly as a game that they hope they can get back on track. I think they see the Ravens probably as a team that they hope, they've beaten them the last couple of years, both close games, and they hope they can kind of survive without their quarterback. But we all know, I mean, if you don't, teams significantly drop off once that starter is out. Luckily the kicker situation has been okay for them without Sebastian Janikowski. Kind of a cool story. One of the cool stories around the team is Giorgio Tavecchio, a guy who was born in Italy, went to college locally in Cal, actually went to high school locally here too, and has spent time. This is like his fifth training camp. Bounced around a lot and almost gave up on football this offseason. They convinced him to come back for one more training camp, and Janikowski goes down with the injured back, and they bring him in, and he goes 4 for 4 on field goals in his NFL debut, including a couple 50-plus yarders, and was the AFC Special Teams Player of the Week. So that's been a one bright side. That's one injury that they've been able to recover from, and Tavecchio's been great. He's been perfect on his kick so far, and so that is at least they have that going for him. They haven't missed Janikowski yet. Jack
loves those local kids, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Bay Area kid himself. Jimmy Durkin joining us here from the Bay Area. He is the senior editor of The Athletic. You can follow him out on Twitter at Jimmy_Durkin. That's Durkin. A lovely picture of you interviewing Derek Carr there on the front of your Twitter site here. For you with the Vegas thing and the team moving, it felt very distracting back in March and April and May and June. I don't know what it would look like at 1 o'clock Pacific on Sunday or how angry fans are. I have a feeling that the fans there are drinking, smoking, eating, cheering, dressing up, black hole, and doing all the stuff. That they're much more concerned about 2-2 than the team going to Vegas 3 years from now, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's really kind of, it was an off-season distraction a little bit. There was the first media availability with players after the move was approved. Derek Carr got into a little bit of hot water with a comment he probably would have rather taken back. Has basically said, fans that aren't going to follow them to Vegas aren't real fans, and he took some heat from that.
Yeah, that wasn't a good one. Yeah, I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah. But since then, I mean, you get the first day of training camp when there's dozens of Vegas media there, and there was some more questions. But I think really ever since the Carr poor worded, quote, guys have learned that they need to be careful with what they say, and so it really hasn't ended up being a distraction. I mean, the amount of players that are still going to be on this team once Vegas finally happens, with now there's talk that they may have to stick around in Oakland until 2020, and they might not be in Vegas until 2021. So that could be this plus 3 more full seasons playing here, in the Bay Area. Would you consider that? I mean, it's really hard for any of these people, any of these players to be looking too far ahead because that's even the rookie class. Those guys are going to have to earn a second contract if they're going to end up playing in Vegas.
Dude, I know you cover all the Bay Area sports there, and we got baseball happening this weekend, and, it's a pretty rare fall. I've spent a lot of time in the Bay Area in the fall, and, I would have guessed when the schedule came out that somebody would have been sniffing around the playoffs. It really was a dead zone for baseball there, and as well as the 49ers, this Raiders sort of semi-collapse is kind of disappointing to the area before Golden State tips off again next month, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, the Giants obviously have been so good, this decade. And, they were a playoff team last year that gave the Cubs a run for their money in the NLDS. And then this year they end up being in contention for the number 1 overall pick next year. And a walk-off from Pablo Sandoval, of all people, in the season finale is what prevents them from ending up with the number 1 overall pick. Not that I think they're okay with that. They'll take a moment of excitement. But, the A's, at least there is something to look forward to. They've announced the site that they want to pursue for a new stadium, and so hopefully maybe 5-6 years from now they'll be opening a new ballpark and ready to kind of turn the corner. But right now everybody's starting to gear up, I think, for the Warriors. They're off on their tour of China for a couple preseason games, and soon enough they'll be back in Oakland and getting ready to kick off the season, and that'll get everybody geared back up. But they still want to see the Raiders get back on track. The Niners are certainly a project for a couple years from now, and we'll see how Kyle Shanahan can get them turned around. But a lot of pressure on the Raiders to be the fun team to watch this fall.
And a lot of pressure this week. This is a huge game, right? I mean, backside of this, Chargers and then a short rest on the Chiefs. I know Jack's taking the team from Buffalo down to Sarasota before the Miami game, and then they get a bye. I mean, this was a team that was expected to be 6-2, right? I mean, this isn't a 4-4 sort of thing as you turn the corner. And the backside of the Raiders' schedule is absolutely brutal. I mean, they have a legitimate first-place schedule.
Well, yeah, I mean, because if they lose this game and all of a sudden they're 2-3, they don't match up well against the Chiefs, and even the Chargers, they might be winless, but they're still a tough team. If they can't get out of this, they have to be at least 4-3 coming out of this 3-game homestand before they go back east, because we know that Buffalo game is suddenly looking tougher. And then get the first place Buffalo Bills, right? I mean, who expected that?
Hey, they also have the Eagles on the schedule late in the year. They got to come in Christmas Day and play the Eagles. Yep. The Eagles might be okay. I mean, who knows, right?
Yeah, I mean, they got to go to Mexico City to play the Patriots. They've got a Sunday night game at home against the Cowboys. The schedule is not tough, so they need to rack up all these wins that they can. And so if they were to lose this week, especially because you look at the Chiefs sitting at 4-0, really atop this division. The Broncos are at 3-1. If they were to drop this game and fall to 2-3, you almost start talking about the AFC West is off the table, and the playoffs are going to be a tough fight just to get back into that race.
He is Jimmy Durkin. He's doing all things Bay Area sports for The Athletic and The Athletic SF. You can go check that out, as well as at Jimmy_Durkin, Durkin, out on Twitter. You've been a wealth of Raider information in the silver and the black. Dude, I have no idea how this is going to go this week. I mean, I don't have high expectations based on what I've seen from the Ravens lately that there's going to be tremendous improvement. But, boy, the Raiders really feel like a diminished program here. This will be a fascinating late afternoon game on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a big opportunity if you're a guy like EJ Manuel, who you came in here just to be a backup to Derek Carr, and he obviously hoped that he would never play, and now he is. He gets a chance to maybe show what he can do on a team that's got some talent. I mean, if he can put up a good performance and show that he's a guy that if he's surrounded with talent that he can do something. I mean, they actually moved the ball better against the Broncos with him at quarterback than they did with Derek Carr for whatever weird reason. So a big opportunity for him and a big opportunity really for the Raiders to kind of get back to their roots, show that their line is going to dominate teams and they're going to be able to move the ball on the ground. So if they can't get that done this week, then they're in some trouble this season.
We'll pack our Skittles for Marshawn and Beast Mode, and we'll see you out there on Sunday. Great having you on, Jimmy. I appreciate the time, man. Good luck with everything at The Athletic. Tell everybody we appreciate what you guys are doing out there, man.
All right, thanks a lot.
You got it. Jimmy Durkin from The Athletic in San Francisco in the Bay Area joining us here. You can find everything you miss day or night, home or away, London or here, Bay Area or anywhere you are, on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn Radio app. It's all in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. You can listen live as well. Our morning newspaper delivers to your email inbox at 7 a.m. That's all brought to you by Planet Fitness at planetfitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life, guaranteed. Last but never least, the breaking news happens first on our WNST text service. That's all brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard, and Dennis Colatzos will be here on Thursday driving you home. It is the SSV on WNST. That is the Sunday Sports Voice, now heard on Thursdays, and our text service is heard whenever anything happens, quite frankly. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook Live, as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. Nasty at WNST.net finds me anytime, anywhere. I am polling some of the population here in the coming weeks since we're moving our Ravens live shows, that we'll see what some folks' opinions are of some things that they'd like to see us do here at WNST. So toss me a note. I'd love to hear from you. We are WNST.net AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.